Last week, we went into GMO foods. And so we wanted to ask the question, what does How to Eat to Live say which fruits and vegetables we should eat?
Yes, sir. Well, right within the first 5 or 6 pages of How to Eat to Live, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that virtually all fruit is good to eat. And then he says virtually all vegetables are good to eat. Then he begins to list the no-nos of vegetables that are not good for us, namely peas, beans, except for the small white navy bean, potatoes, soybean, corn, rice, nuts, and even greens. So trying to explain this to a person who wants to become vegetarian, and when we say, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says be vegetarian, but there's certain vegetables you can't eat. You need to take the time to explain why those certain vegetables are not good to eat. And so when I point out that most beans and peas and nuts are not good for us, that is because they are seeds. And the New York Times did an article in 2011 where it talked about the toughness of seeds. They're designed to go through you, particularly animals like birds. They eat fruit with seeds in them, and then they fly, and then they defecate, and then they plant a new plant or tree. We don't want to be the delivery system for plants like that. So we can try to eat these vegetables. I know some of us, we have parents who've cooked us peas and rice, red beans and rice. Even though you may say your mother's red beans and rice is killer, it's basically killing you. So you want to pull away from those type of foods as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
So, Brother Charles, how do we determine which vegetables are good to eat and which vegetables are not so good to eat?
Well, taking the guidance from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his student, the Honorable Muslim Farrakhan, we can look into the Bible and see in the first book of Genesis, I should say chapter rather, 29, where it talks about which plants are good for us and which are not. And it says that the plants with fruit with seed and trees with fruit with seed in it is for us. Then in verse 30, it talks about for all the birds and the beasts and the animals that crawl on the ground, I give every green plant for food. So the green plants are for the animals, not so much us. Because yes, I will admit, most green vegetables have a lot of nutrition in it. It's just not for us. Leave it for the cows and the horses and all of the rabbits, those animals that can digest the cellulose that make up these green leaf vegetables. Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, book number 2, says that green leaf vegetable, it's okay in little bits, but large amounts of it is not good for us because it's hard for us to digest. It's rich in fiber. It's good if you want a nice colon cleanse to eat it. It'll just go right through you, but it's hard to digest foods like mustards, collards, and things of that sort.
Now, some people are going to say, that's a little extreme. Would you not say that a little bit of greens are good to eat?
Well, yes. If you read How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that spinach, a little bit of it is good, but don't become a habitual spinach eater. But brothers and sisters, let's be principled eaters. How to Eat to Live is a science. It's not an art, and it's not a sport. So when you look at spinach, let's take Popeye. Popeye promoted eating spinach. But when you eat spinach, it's better to combine it with olive oil, right? From the cartoon. That's why his girlfriend was named Olive Oil. But if you eat too much spinach, it'll cause bloating. And who is the enemy of Popeye? No other than Bluto. So these are things that we learn as children. You can eat spinach, it's good for you, but too much of it is not good for you. And if you are going to eat it, make sure you can combine it with the proper food, which is olive oil.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned grafted vegetables. What are those, and are they safe to eat?
Well, grafting of vegetables has been going on for thousands of years, and horticulturalists, botanists, and agriculturalists use this science to help them yield more fruits and vegetables. Some people see it as a Franken foods type of thing when you're combining foods or taking parts of them and isolating them. But this is a natural practice, particularly when you want to enhance your fruit yield. So certain countries, they've identified plants that are produce of fruit, and they take a sapling of it and then combine it with another plant that may have been struggling, so it can enhance its yield of bigger fruit. It is a natural technique used in horticulture.
So when we talk about grafting of natural fruits and vegetables, the question is, that question that comes to my mind, and maybe many others in our viewing audience, is, are there any drawbacks to the grafting of natural fruits and vegetables?
From my research, I don't see much drawback, other than you can lose certain ancestral lines, because particularly in apples can produce on one tree different variations of fruit. They can produce Granny Smith, Macintosh, and other types of apples. So what apple growers like to do is, when they see a branch that's producing a Granny Smith apple, cut that branch, root it so it can grow roots, and then plant it. Then you try to get a whole Granny Smith tree. But when you allow this process to get out of hand, you lose certain branches of species. But there's also a good side to grafting. You get a variety of different vegetables that are good for the human family, particularly broccoli and cauliflower. They come from the same plant. But you must know the science, the proper science of grafting, so it won't be harmful to you.
Yes, sir. So in How to Eat to Live, was Mr. Muhammad concerned about any of these grafted vegetables?
Yes, sir. Now, there is a plant, it's called the wild mustard plant, that has produced other vegetables that we are knowledgeable of or know of, which is broccoli and cauliflower, but also kale. Kale is a weed, right, that has a history in the United States that even cows don't want to eat kale. So farmers were saying, well, what am I going to do with this? Then all of a sudden, there became a marketing campaign to call kale a healthy superfood. So in like the first portion of How to Eat to Live on page 4, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, do not eat the vegetable called kale. Because his brothers and sisters are good to eat, like cauliflower or Brussels sprouts, but kale is one of those greens that are not good for you and has adverse effects. It's particularly the science of it affecting the thyroid, and also it is a goitrogen, which at some point in time we could go into. But like you see, that family tree, certain parts of that family tree of that plant, we should not be eating. But that is the history of grafting. There's some good and there's some bad. And we've identified the grafted vegetables you shouldn't eat, and that is kale and the mustard greens.
Thank you, Brother Charles, for informing us once again of How to Eat to Live. Let us pause for some announcements from our sponsors. When we return, we'll come back with Student Minister Darrell Muhammad will give us the Al-Asa Report. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.